Climax Battle is probably the most difficult and also the most controversial mode that has been added to My Hero Ultra Impact. And here today we're going to discuss my overall thoughts and opinions on Climax Battle, the bosses, and some other things. So before we're going to get started, make sure you guys go down there and click that red subscribe button. Make sure it says subscribe, click that bell, turn on all those notifications on any future videos, as well as drop a like down below and share your thoughts and opinions on Climax Battle in the comments below. So, I want to preface this video first of all saying that these are all my opinions. You can take them with a grain of salt and everything like that. These are my opinions with my experience of Climax Battle and just kind of overall seeing the overall feedback of Climax Battle as well. So, first of all, let's start out with All For One. All For One, this guy right here. This was the first Climax Battle boss that has released. And man, was he the doozy when he released. Now, overall as a unit for the character that you obtain, he's not like busted. He's not broken. He's not like uber super amazing or anything like that. He's all right. But the boss was the probably most, I think All For One was the most controversial Climax Battle boss so far. Now, granted, we've only had 2 so far. But All For One being the most controversial of the 2 being Gentle Criminal and All For One. And the reason All For One was so, I get quote unquote controversial, I should say, is that All For One was really hard, not only for the fact that he also had sub enemies with him. He had Nomus that would spawn. You would beat the Nomus, they would take a while to respawn, then they would respawn again. And those Nomus were annoying, man. They were super annoying to deal with. All For One was kind of annoying as well. Not only for the fact that he would live on 1 HP when you got him down, but also for the fact that he would also force switch out your entire team if you didn't have like barrier or evasion active at the same time to kind of nullify that, which was also really annoying as well. But All For One, the reason his was the most quote-unquote controversial is because when he released, there weren't many units that could handle this guy. And what I mean is there weren't many units with either evasion or AoE barrier to your team. And that's what Fantasy Todoroki did. Fantasy Todoroki gave your entire team barrier with one of his skills. And also he did have some barrier built into his auto skills, I do believe, if I remember correctly. But Todoroki was the guy that released in an Impact Fest Fantasy Todoroki for All For One. Now, there aren't many units. There is like some cheerleader Ochako and also like Hiroshima that was available that does do barriers, but they're not as good as Todoroki, because Todoroki was actually he's really good, not only for like PvP and stuff, but overall Todoroki was the unit to need to clear the SS rank of All For One's Climax Battle. Now, I know a lot of people were saying, and I'm throwing this out here, that a lot of people were saying, oh, SS difficulty. No, they weren't even saying SS difficulty. They were just saying overall Climax Battle was gated because you needed Todoroki. And that is not really the case. The entirety of the event was not entirely gated on Todoroki. I would say SS difficulty, yes, for the most part, was kind of gated, quote unquote, but it wasn't. You don't need to clear SS difficulty to obtain All For One or any of the stuff that was available to you. You could clear S, you could clear A, you could clear B in order to obtain medals to then buy All For One or his items in the shop. So I would say this event, I would say it would be 100% gated, yes, if All For One was strictly available in SS only. If he was not available in the shop through metal grinding, then I would say, yeah, that event is heavily gated. That is annoying to have to get a unit based off of the difficulty that you have to clear it on. But no, they did not make it that way. When I analyze the Climax Battle, I really want everyone to focus on the fact that I'm not judging it based on one difficulty being the highest difficulty. I'm basing my opinion off the entirety of the event. If they had built All For One into the event as a free character to obtain, but you can only get him through SS difficulty, that would be a problem. But they made it so where you could farm All For One's character by buying him with medals from farming the lower difficulties if you could not beat SS. So they did make him available to the players that could not get SS difficulty completed. So, and it did require the All For One to come back as well in the future, which he did come back. He was available for a second run, a shorter run, but he did come back nonetheless. And that was able to help let people purchase the All for One if you were grinding the medals from the lower difficulties. Also, we also had units release over time in between the All for One Climax battles between his first and second runs. So, you know, we also had like Summer Ochaka, who did help a lot of people clear All for One and stuff like that as well. So again, with over time, a lot of units that do come out, you're going to obviously make the older bosses a lot easier to handle, a lot easier to clear, and the difficulties become easier as time goes on with a lot more units releasing. That's the case really with any mode in any gacha game whatsoever. A mode that I like to compare this to is like Super Battle Road or Extreme Super Battle Road. In Extreme Super Battle Road, you need a specific team to clear some of the actual stages. Like say you need to clear ESBR Fusion, you need specific fusion units. And when that stage released, like there weren't, like when that stuff came out, like there weren't many fusion options available to you, especially free to play options. So you needed some of the summonable fusion units to actually clear that Super Battle Road ESBR stage. Obviously now ESBR and Super Battle Road are a lot easier because a lot more units are available to people. Again, that is going to be the same case with Climax Battle. When All for One comes back in the future at some point, then All for One will be a lot easier to clear because a lot more units have released that have a lot better skills and a lot better abilities. And not only for the fact of that All for One released before the dupe system availability was there, the DX board that was in the latest update to the game that added dupes to characters. So not only did dupes make characters a lot stronger in terms of their stats, but they also heightened their abilities a lot more, gave them a unique EX auto skill, and just overall the dupe system is going to be good because that dupe system, if you're duping out your older characters, especially SRs, SR characters are very, very good post dupe system. They were pretty good before, but even post dupe system, a lot of SR characters get crazy, crazy nutty. So a lot of SR characters are going to come in handy when beating previous Climax battles, especially with this dupe system. So All for One definitely was very, very controversial when he released, mainly for the fact of that SS difficulty was heavily, heavily difficult because if you did not have Todoroki, you could not essentially clear it. Now, just to kind of give an overall effect here, when the new Climax battle releases, at least so far, we don't know what the future is going to be like, but at least the first two that have released, Gentle Criminal and All for One, they've each brought forth an Impact Fest fantasy unit. Now, this may be different down the line in a few, months or in a year or so. They may not even be fantasy units anymore. But so far with each Climax battle, they've brought an Impact Fest character that does help beat the boss. Now, this Ida is very, very good for all Climax battle Gentle Criminal. Same with the fact for Todoroki. Now, they're going to make these characters. They're going to make banners with characters specific to beating the new mode. Because, they want you to summon. They do want you to summon, but it shouldn't be like a whole requirement of obtaining this only character that can beat it to then beat that event, right? Obviously, that should never be the case. And it should never make the event solely dependent on this one character here that you're summoning for, but it should be on the plethora of characters that are available to you. The only reason All for One was controversial is because Fantasy Todoroki, as I mentioned before, he was one of a few that had the ability to beat All for One because of the abilities that he had, being like the AoE barrier and such, right? Which not many units actually had. There were some, but not a lot, and none of them were really good enough to beat the event with, honestly. Todoroki, even with Todoroki, the Impact Fest Todoroki, even if you had him, SS difficulty was still a pain. All for One and the Nomus being an absolute pain as well. Even with Todoroki, it was still kind of annoying to farm SS difficulty, even with Todoroki. So it's not like it made it like stupid but easy to actually, beat All for One with Todoroki. It was still pretty difficult even with Todoroki at times. But nonetheless, Todoroki did make it easier. But with the new Gentle Criminal, Ida makes Gentle Criminal like easy peasy lemon squeezy compared to what Todoroki did for All for One. But with Gentle Criminal now, Gentle Criminal, he's a solo boss. There are no enemies that he spawns in with, so it's only Gentle Criminal. Also, All for One had that last stand 1 HP nonsense, which Gentle Criminal also does not have. But that's what also made All for One really annoying when you got him down to 1 HP. He had last stand, that was stupid. I hated that. I don't know why they gave it to him. I guess it makes sense, but it was really stupid. But either way, Gentle Criminal is much better designed not for the fact that he's like stupid busted to face. Yes, he is kind of annoying if you get his trampolines hitting you and stuff like that, which does bound you and you can't move with your character. That is annoying. But Gentle Criminal, he doesn't have any enemy characters that spawn with him. He does have high health, but he's also not hitting really, really hard. Even in SS difficulty for Gentle Criminal, he's not hitting very hard in the very beginning. Obviously, as you go down through the phases, he does hit quite a bit harder, but I feel like he's not nearly on the same level as All for One was. I feel like All for One was really, really difficult versus Gentle Criminal. They tweaked it more. They were able to get feedback from the All for One fight and stuff like that. So I feel like Gentle was based on the feedback they got from All for One, and now we have this Gentle Criminal fight, and that's a lot easier for players to beat. You can also beat Gentle Criminal without Fantasy Ida. It's a lot easier this go around than it was for All for One. All for One, if you didn't have Todoroki, you pretty much are screwed. There were a very slight few that did beat All for One on his first run without Todoroki at all. Granted, it took them forever to do it, I guess, but it was still possible. It was still possible to beat. It just took a lot of time and effort. Versus Gentle Criminal now. Gentle Criminal, I beat Gentle Criminal with Fantasy Bakugo, Samuro Chaco, Red Momo, and Red Mount Lady. Those four were the main four staple on my team because they did get bounced out because of Gentle, but those four, I was able to beat Gentle Criminal on SS without too much difficulty at all. Because Mount Lady was still really good to use. Red Momo was still really good to use. Samuro Chaco definitely good to use for evasions, which comes in handy. And then also Fantasy Bakugo just deals a lot of damage, right? So again, though this one right here, I feel like Gentle Criminal was way better in design because I guess they got a lot of feedback and a lot of distaste for how All for One was done. And just take into account when they did the first Climax battle All for One, it was their first time. It was the very first Climax battle. It's not going to be 100% perfect right out the gate, right? They obviously are going to tweak it over time and be like, okay, we made this one maybe a little too hard. Let's kind of tweak it down a bit, make it a little bit easier for people, but still hard enough. And I feel like that's what Gentle did. This Gentle fight was fairly well balanced in terms of if you have the new unit, the new Impact Vest that released, it makes it a lot easier, but it's not insanely difficult to beat without Ida at all. So people are still clearing it without Ida. I cleared it without Ida and stuff like that, but I feel like Gentle Criminal definitely is a lot easier and a lot better designed as a character. The only other thing I do have in terms of a gripe, this is my personal gripe, and I know a lot of people as well have this. The drop rates for this right here, you get 40 plus 20 bonus potential, but SS only gives you a total of 60 roughly per run if you get the bonus each time. And for SS, that feels a little low, especially with how many you need to get not only his DX pieces, but also his orbs. Well, orbs not too much. Orbs actually aren't too bad. It's 350 plus 250, about 600, right? So 600 for the 2 orbs. And then you need 2,500 times 3, so that's 7,500 pieces, or 7,500 medals rather, to get the 3 DX pieces for Gentle to max out his DX board. Then not only do you need more to get pieces, and a UR character for pieces alone costs 900 in both boards. The DX board and the piece board combined cost 900 total pieces. So you need to get 900 of these in order to max him out. Which again, yeah, I mean, the drops are you're getting 60, so that's better than nothing. But at the same time, 60 for beating SS difficulty feels a little bit on the low side. I feel like for at least beating SS difficulty, maybe 100 per run, because you only get to do the event 3 times per day. So 3 times per day, if you get a total of 60 per, it's 180 per day, right? If you get the bonus each time. So 180 per day feels a little low. 300 per day feels a little bit better to me. I feel like they could have done that instead for SS difficulty. That's literally the only gripe I have is the drop rate for the most part. But again, this right here, this mode is endgame content. And also, again, you're not gated to the fact you have to clear SS to get Gentle Criminal. You can obtain Gentle Criminal, as you saw, if you farm the medals to buy his unit. You can buy his unit in order to get it. So there you go. You don't need to actually farm You don't actually need to beat SS in order to obtain the new unit, which is great. I feel like that's a good step, and that's a good way to do this climax battle, to where, yes, there is a new character available to obtain for free in the game, a new UR character at that, but you don't have to beat the hardest difficulty. You can then farm lower difficulties, obtain the medals, and buy the character. Boom, there you go, still free character. So it's easier for a lot of people to still obtain the character by farming. Yes, it will take a little bit longer to get him, but overall, at least you're still able to get him by farming, versus it's locked behind one difficulty and that's it, right? I feel like they did this well enough to where everyone can obtain the character in some way, shape, or form. But overall, there is that. Again, the only gripe I have is the drop rates for SS difficulty, and maybe S could, I think S and SS could maybe be bumped up just a smidge, but SS definitely feels a little too low for what you're getting, and it takes forever. Even 30 days plus the 15 that it comes back for if they do a second run. I don't feel like you're going to clear out the shop even farming it each and every day. 3 times per day, if you're getting that low of drops, I feel like 3 times per day is very not enough. I would feel maybe 6 times per day, even 10 times per day farming this event, just 10 times per day, like you do for Ultra Arena and stuff like that. You know, I feel like that would be a lot easier. At least let us buy tries for $3. If you could let us buy tries and extra tries for $3, I would buy that in a heartbeat. So I don't know. Maybe they'll add a pack for that in the future to buy extra tries. Who knows? That's to be said and done. I really don't mind that. I like the extra tries per day. I feel like in the future though, the tries per day maybe they'll increase it. I feel like a lot of this, like the tries per day, limited per day stuff, we'll start to see it go away as the game progresses its longevity a little bit more. So that's to be seen as we progress in the game's lifespan. But overall, 3 times per day for the amount of drop rates is the only gripe I have. I feel like that's not enough, really too much in order to farm out this shop. So that, again, that's really my only specific gripe. Again, All for One was more difficult than Gentle, but the payoff was a lot worse. All for One's climax battle, his boss was hard, not only because of All for One, but because of the Nomus and because of the limited character availability to what you needed to actually beat him with. In terms of skills. But All for One, when you obtain the character, the All for One character you obtain, his kit was kind of meh. It was not like busted. It was not fantastic. It was okay. It wasn't great. He's an okay-ish character to obtain if you'd need one for villains. But flip that, go to Gentle Criminal. Gentle Criminal's character, his kit, and his unit you obtain is very, very good. Like a top tier character as a free character. Nonetheless, Gentle is very, very good and a lot easier to obtain than All for One was. So I feel like, again, they're taking the steps in the right direction. That's why I wasn't too heavily critical of Climax Battle when it first launched, because Climax Battle, it's their first time doing it. They're gonna tweak it. They're gonna, adjust over time as stuff goes on. So again, we have to wait and see until we've had enough of them. But with the release of the new Climax Battle, Gentle Criminal, Gentle was a good step in the right direction. I feel like either they listen to feedback or they're like, maybe we made this a little too hard. Boom, Gentle Criminal. He's a lot easier to beat. And also his unit you obtain is super good. Like, he's really, really good. So again, I feel like it's heading the step in the right direction. Gentle's Climax Battle is far better than All for One's. All for One, I understand the gripes people had with it. It did leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths because of the first time that it ever came out, and because All for One was really, really hard, especially when you didn't have Todoroki. But I still feel like All for One was okay. I feel like a lot of people hyper-focused only on the SS difficulty when, the point is you could also farm the lower difficulties to get it. Yes, it takes you longer. Yes, it's a grind. Yes, I get that. But it's still there and available to you. I feel like people just want things here now. Give me, give me, give me. Not to say that everybody does that, but I feel like some people do. Not, just say. But, sometimes you have to grind for things you want. And, Climax Battle, it is an end game content. This mode, Climax Battle, is not for new players. It is not for new players. It is not for beginner players. It is not for people that have been playing for a month and, only log in and summon and that stuff. No. Climax Battle is the definition so far for My Hero Ultra Impact as end game content. This is end game difficult content. VE Tower, nah, not really. VE Tower is difficult, but not that difficult, even with its new difficulty. We have Ultra Arena, which is It's not difficult really. It's dependent on your units, but as people go over time with farming the game, your units are going to get better, built up, stuff like that. So Ultra Arena's, changing. USJ definitely is not super hard either. Maybe at the start it is, but once you get your units built up per type, it's pretty easy, especially with new units releasing and new free-to-play units coming out over and over and over again. So USJ and VE Tower weren't really endgame. They were for a bit, but especially when the game came out, VE Tower and USJ were the new game endgame content, I would say. But now that the game is a little over a year for Japan, almost heading on a year for global, I would say that Climax Battle is the definition of what we would expect endgame content to look like for this game. I feel like it's a very, very good difficulty for endgame content. I would say Gentle Criminal is the better endgame difficulty version than All for One was. I get All for One was difficult. I very much understand the gripe with All for One, but I feel like they've moved forward. They're like, okay, we need to fix, like I keep saying, they said we need to fix it. Now Gentle Criminal, that's the definition. That's endgame difficulty enough for a lot of people to beat it, but to where, it's not too easy. It's not too hard. It's like right in that little sweet area spot that you need to be in, to where, you maybe don't have to summon for the new unit. You could still beat it with a little bit of trying, but also if you do happen to have the new unit, makes it a breeze. Boom, there you go. Again, I feel like Climax Battle is right in that sweet spot with Gentle Criminal. This is where the difficulty needs to be at. Obviously, as time goes on, as units release and stuff goes on, these bosses are going to get a little harder as we keep going, right? That's to expected. That's power creep for you. That's how things work. So I would expect them to get a little bit harder, a little bit harder, a little bit harder. And obviously over time, as I mentioned before, as we go over and over and over time, more bosses release, the older bosses get easier and easier and easier because new units come out with more skills that make the other ones just like pretty much a cakewalk, right? So again, over time, these bosses are going to be easier and easier and easier. Well, maybe we'll get a new difficulty added like SSSS. That'd be interesting. But overall, Climax Battle, I feel like this is good endgame content. Very, very good endgame content. Aside from the fact that All for One was like, again, their first one. They tweaked it. They released Gentle. Gentle is in the good spot. Hopefully the next boss is like the Gentle Criminal one, but a little bit more difficult, but not to where it's difficult enough to where you need the new unit, because you definitely don't need the new Ida to beat Gentle Criminal. Fantasy Todoroki again was in a weird spot because there weren't many units with his kit capabilities. So again, there's that to take into consideration as well. But overall, when I analyze this event, not only in SS difficulty, but all the other difficulties, the shop, obtaining the new unit, anybody can obtain the new unit either by clearing SS or farming the shop and stuff like that. You can still obtain the new unit no matter what. I feel like that's a good way to go about it. And as well as I feel like, again, Gentle Criminal was the good step in the right direction towards the mode overall being a good mode for the endgame player. So that's overall my thoughts and opinions. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and also, again, let me know what you guys thought. Again, I know that a lot of people left this, again, All for One left a sour taste in people's mouths with this mode. I highly get that and I highly understand. But again, if you've not tried the Gentle Criminal one, check out the Gentle Criminal Climax Battle. It's a lot easier this time around, a lot better. I feel like it's a lot, I feel like the boss is a lot easier to control with units that you have on your teams. So again, let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you guys want to see me do a video of beating Gentle Criminal without the new Ida or with the new Ida or both, let me know down in the comments down below as well. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.